Can you pull up your... Hi, welcome to the Power of Now. I am Coach Mitchell.
And I'm Coach Darren.
And together we are MD Coaching and Consulting. We are so excited to be back tonight. I had to take a little break last week due to conflicting schedules, but we are back tonight. And tonight we are dealing with disappointments and struggles.
Yes.
And how much of it is actually as a result of happenstance or life, or brought upon by ourselves. We're going to delve into that, take a really didactic perspective into what it means in dealing with disappointment. In dealing with disappointments and the struggles that actually come along with the disappointments. So whether it is something that occurs by life or disappointment that occurs by events that are happening in our lives, or if it's something that we have effectively caused by ourselves, right? Good evening, Dr. Nicole. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're so happy to have you with us. So, Coach Darren?
Yes. Just before we begin, I just want to, can you tell who is on? Again, welcome, Dr. Nicole. Thank you for attending again.
So, do us a favor. Click on the StreamYard link above your video so that we can see who is actually on with us tonight, because we really want to be able to not just acknowledge you and thank you for taking the time out to sit in and listen to us tonight, but also so that we can engage with you, because this is not a conversation or a dialogue between Coach Darren and Coach Mitchell. We want you to be a part of the discussion as well. So go ahead, click that link for us. All right, Coach. So, hi, Ray. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Darren is sounding very low.
Really? Hello? Testing.
Okay.
All right. You just acknowledged Ray. So, Ray, I'm assuming you are a YouTube watcher. And there's probably a delay there. But thank you for joining, and thank you for monitoring YouTube for us.
Absolutely.
Much appreciated.
We appreciate you, Ray.
Yes. All right. So, again, we all have dealt with disappointment. We know it's an aspect of our life. But what is it? Let's really sit down and have that talk about what is disappointment. First of all, we need to recognize that it's real.
It's real.
It's raw. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Asia. Facebook user, don't know who you are, but great evening. Come on, click that link. Click that link, StreamYard. Allow StreamYard access so we can at the very least see your name and acknowledge you for being here, for taking time out to spend a little bit of time with us, talking about things that really matter and impact each and every one of us.
Okay. So when we talk about disappointment, we need to recognize what it is. And as I said, it's a raw, real emotion. Oh, what's happening here? Okay. And we associate it with things like sadness, depression, non-clinical, that is, frustration. And I want to ask a question, why do we experience it? Well, I think one of the main things is when our reality doesn't match our expectations. Now, there are sayings that, if you don't expect anything, then you won't be disappointed. But that's not really how this works.
Right.
Because you want to expect things. You want to have a high expectations for yourself. You want to have it for others. And you want to have it just for living. But there are techniques or things you should do where you can have both. But disappointment is going to come. Like I mentioned, it's just a matter of when and where. And it's not so much about when it's going to come, it's how do we deal with it?
How do we deal with it?
You know,
Exactly.
uh,
Hi, Sanji. Hi, Tanise. Thanks for joining.
um, I think it begins with one, how you're raised as a child.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? So that what are your values? How are you taught? I know a lot of times we want to prevent our children from experiencing disappointment or hurt.
Oh, yeah.
And that actually does more harm than good. I remember, my daughter when she was young, saying to her mom, sometimes just tell her no. Just tell her no. Because if we don't learn how to deal with disappointment as a child, it becomes more devastating to be disappointed as an older person.
Absolutely.
Whether that's a teenager or even an adult. Because you just begin that the world is going to work in your favor all the time.
Absolutely, Coach. And, that brings me to a point that of an event that occurred over, the last 24 hours. Sanjay, it doesn't just happen with me. Stop. I don't know why your name is not showing on StreamYard. Hi, Sister Terrell. But hi, Ann. Thanks for joining. But my summer just lost her pet. And she lost her pet because she left it out overnight. And her pet is, I think it's a hamster. Is it a hamster? Or a guinea pig or a gerbil? Yeah, it's a rodent. It's a rodent. But what happened was she left her pet, whose name was Oreo, outside overnight. And normally what happens is her father instructs her to make sure that she has Oreo's cage covered up, because we live in an area where my property line abuts a creek and woods. So, we have foxes, we have groundhogs, we have skunks, we have wild feral cats. No. And yeah. And what happened was Aziz calls me this morning and he says that Oreo got gotten. And my immediate reaction was to call and console Summer and to send her something to, console her. And your point, Coach, was that we have to allow our children, and in this case, my grandchild, to experience. Hi, Donnell. Thank you for joining. We have to allow our children, as children, when traumatic events happen, and I don't mean traumatic events that are really egregious against a person's person, but when death occurs of a child's pet, we have to walk them through the grieving experience, right? And, I know my baby is hurting. I know she's going through some really emotional turmoil and disappointment within herself that she did not take the responsibility of caring for her pet the way she should have. But we have to allow her to experience the disappointment, right? So it's traumatic.
Yeah. Which is, first of all, we see a lot of people, well, actually, we back up, allowing yourself and especially allowing children to experience disappointment. And this is where, we all grew up, we always know the classic parental responses, because I said so. Sometimes that seems to be appropriate. You don't need an explanation. The answer is no. Why? Because I said so. Because you're conditioning them. We see now a lot of the dysfunction and even the violence because people are lacking coping skills.
Exactly. And it's not because I said so.
Right. It's because we've kind of failed in that area to the point where people need to understand the world does not revolve around them.
Mm-hmm.
We're part of a bigger, experience. So it is our view of, I think the entitlement and disappointment that leads to the dysfunction, that leads to the disconnection, that leads to even the violence. So I want everyone to, kind of just think about, and I'm sure because we got all adults here, you've dealt with disappointment at some point in your life, and it comes in different, we'll say different levels. And though our title was disappoint, deal with disappointment and suffering, we may not get to the suffering. I think suffering is just a larger, more impactful aspect of disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
But we understand disappointment because disappointment, like I said, we may creep into our life, every week, hopefully not every day. But we want to ask, is it real, or is it just something made up in our mind based off of how we're thinking about it? So one question I just want to ask, why does disappointment even hurt? Anybody have any thoughts? Why does disappointment? Now remember, disappointment is also subjective, which is really important because you know what? Sometimes you want to tell other people, well, you shouldn't be disappointed about that. And I really advise, don't let someone else tell you how you should feel about something.
Absolutely.
Now, emotions are not right or wrong, they just are. Now, how you feel about something may impact your days, your moments, but it's not for someone else to tell you you shouldn't feel that way.
Exactly, because you have to acknowledge how you feel. It's no different than when we talked about emotions, you have to acknowledge and accept the disappointment. Because if you don't, then that, I believe, leads to a space and place of suffering. That's where you get to the suffering part, because you're ruminating in something that you really haven't accepted nor dealt with. And so it's important to recognize that the disappointment is a normal part of life. It happens to all of us. I mean, every day, for the most part, you can probably, pick a situation or a scenario where you may have been disappointed in. And, it could be minimal, it could be something big. It doesn't matter. But the point is, you have to be able to recognize and acknowledge that it is a normal part of life in order for you to be able to deal with it. And it's okay to feel it. It's okay to feel it. Absolutely, Donnell. Expectations hurt because we are under a false assumption.
Yeah, and actually, why you got Donnell's attention, Donnell, you posted something yesterday in the conversation, and I asked you, to grab it. If you can grab it and post it in the comments here, I think it, may resonate with a lot of people. But one of the things in Donnell's comment yesterday was, we want to be mindful that we don't try to avoid disappointment. Yes, it hurts, and we pretty much know, it is a natural reaction to avoid anything that hurts. But when you avoid disappointment, you run the risk of avoiding taking chances, getting outside of your comfort zone. And doing that, it may also lead to bigger disappointment. Now, what I mean by that, those who listen to our our sessions, we pretty much, you've heard me say things like, you ever try to avoid falling? Everybody said they had to walk on ice, and you avoid falling. It's the difference between being cautious and safety-minded when you are extremely, or if you're in the middle of a fall, let me put it that way, you're in the middle of a fall, and you're trying to avoid falling, what usually happens is you end up hurting yourself more.
Right.
In other words, as they tell you, you want to fall into the momentum. You want to go with the flow. You run less risk. So applying that to this situation is, you don't want to avoid disappointment. You don't want to be careless either.
That's
You
right.
want to be mindful of doing whatever you can do. But disappointment may happen, and sometimes out of nothing that you did or did not do. Let's say stuff just happens.
That's right. I read a comment that, disappointments is the condiment that gives success its flavor. So if you're never disappointed, then your successes really are not important to you.
They won't be appreciated.
And you don't appreciate them because you didn't have any disappointments along the way. That's what we call that silver spoon. You've been handed everything in life, but when you have to work for something, then it means that much more to you than when something is given to you. You appreciate the effort, the hard work, and the determination that it took for you to get to where you are versus someone just handing you something. So, we look at some of the culture that feels entitled and that have been given just, an open door, never having to work for anything. And we see that play out in the fabric of the reactions and the emotions and the perspectives of people in today's society that think that, I can write a dossier and take out 40 people because I feel like somebody took something from me versus someone who has put their hands to the plow and tilled the soil, have worked for what they've gotten or worked for what they want to achieve and appreciates it in the sense that, you know what, I can lift as I climb because I've worked and I want to show someone else how it feels to work and acquire and appreciate what you get or have.
So we also want to think that there's emotional aspect to disappointment. But there's also a physiological aspect. And I ask the question, why does it hurt so much? Well, it hurts also because of how our brain interprets disappointment. We have what we know as feel good neurotransmitters or hormones, like we all know, things like dopamine, serotonin. When we experience disappointment and it triggers us to our brain to catalog that as an event, which think about that, it's an experience, not necessarily an event, but our brain doesn't make that distinction. It categorizes it as an event, and therefore our brain reacts differently, and we can even experience physical pain from disappointment. Why some people always might trigger migraine. People who may suffer from migraine, disappointment may lead to some form of stress. It makes us feel we're out of balance, that something's wrong with our well-being. So a whole bunch of things are going on. But guess what? Most of that is really in our mind. We always talk about thoughts and emotions and beliefs. That's really what it is. Now, totally different from somebody who, if you're dealing with a really serious issue, that may trigger some form of disappointment. Well, I'm talking the disappointment we go through every day.
Right.
We don't get things that we want, we don't get the job,
Right, exactly. And I think this is a good place to pin that we are not psychoanalysts, psychotherapists. We don't proclaim to be.
Just psycho.
Yeah, no, I'm not even claiming that. But but we are here just to discuss everyday issues of life, and MD coaching and consulting is not medical doctor. It's Mitchell and Darren. So just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. All right. So hi, Asia. Thank you for joining us tonight. So absolutely. Go ahead, Coach.
Okay. I'm actually reading Darnell's comment. Yep. And again, we are taught not to disappoint. So therefore, we view it, we shun it, we try to avoid it because, again, it's how we're going to be perceived. Uh, the repercussions. It's like failure. I think disappointment and failure ride side by side, and we know how we view failure.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why going back to uh, be mindful for those who are getting still raising young children, mindful of how to get them to deal with disappointment. We want to give children all things that we didn't have.
Right.
But remember that experience that you went through, if you especially grew up in an environment that lacked things, material things, you don't want your children to have that experience. Well, we pretty much know most of the time that doesn't work out, you know, to benefit you as a parent or that child.
Right. You want to, at this point, give them coping skills.
Yes.
And the tools that can help them navigate through whatever disappointments that may occur in their lives. Because, I went to, I was one of those impoverished kids, if you will. But I think that for my siblings and I, even though we lacked in materialistic things, we had the support of a parent that, if things didn't work out our way or if kids were bullying us at school, we were given techniques and tools in order to overcome that so that we wouldn't succumb to the mental fatigue, trauma, and oppression that brought about, and the stigma that it brought about by being, a person that was of poor economic status, if you will. So we have to give our kids those coping skills and not, I would say, lambast them into developing tough skin, because we do that too, as not just as a culture, but I think that when we come up in a culture or an environment of lack, we tend to not have the emotional intelligence to help our children.
Now, I think, and myself, again, growing up poor, but it's very true. I don't know how many people grew up poor but didn't realize they were poor because everybody around them was poor. And I think that's how it was. We didn't grow up with a whole lot. Yeah, you had to go so you realize that you may lack, less than others. But it was those other things that made childhood enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
But it still came that there was, areas that still came up short where you experienced the disappointment, but you worked through it. In some cases, you might even be humiliation. We talk about growing up with lack. But guess what? It made you who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those coping skills, even as an adult, are you dealing with disappointment in a constructive way? Now, there are multiple ways that you can approach it. One of the things I would tell people, first of all, it's okay. Now, this is just me, all right? It's okay to have your pity party. You just don't want to overstay your welcome. But that pity party is allowing you to acknowledge how you feel.
That's right.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I was expecting something else. It didn't happen. Now, for some, if you've been dealing with disappointment your whole life and you develop that coping skill, you might just be able to go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
They are teaching on a spiritual and metaphysical, and especially anyone who's familiar with any Eastern, ways of living. They'll tell you a thing about, be detached from the outcome. Don't focus on the destination. Enjoy the journey. And it just helps in terms of understanding how those work. If you can integrate those into how you live, yeah, it minimizes the disappointment. But no matter how we approach it, we all want what we want when we want it.
Exactly. But like you just said, I think that being able to see the positive side of a disappointment and being able to reframe it helps the situation entirely, because it gives you a different outlook and perspective when you can learn the lesson in the disappointment
Yeah.
rather than sit in the disappointment, because it could be a blessing in disguise.
Yes.
It could. I'm sorry, guys. I'm looking off to the side because I'm looking over at Coach Darren. So
And I'm looking at Dr. Simpson's comment, and I mentioned
Yes.
two other comments went by,
Yes.
and I didn't catch them. But I know this is something that irritates a lot of people, and rightfully so. So I was alluding to earlier is, don't let someone else tell you how you should feel.
Mm-hmm.
And on the flip side, be mindful that you aren't telling someone, how they should feel about something. Because how we do that, we interpret things. Our emotions are based on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Not something that's just in that moment. Things that happen in our life. Certain things will trigger certain emotions in us, or certain feelings. So you want to be mindful that you're not telling somebody else how to feel, and also don't let somebody tell you how you should feel. And to Dr. Simpson's point, it is kind of disrespectful. At least acknowledge, especially when somebody's done something and it's a cause of your frustration. At least have the integrity to let them know that you recognize how they feel. Now, on this side, you may not agree, but at least recognize how someone else is feeling. So I think that's the start of the discussion to healing. I again, I feel you, as folks might say,
Mm-hmm.
And even ask them why they feel that way, and also leave that space, because sometimes we feel a certain way, we don't even know why.
Exactly. Exactly. And
somebody just
like Sanji said, her feelings are hers
to process.
to process. Your feelings are yours to process. So, you're feeling some type of way. Okay, then process your feelings and your emotions, but we can't be dismissive of how other people feel,
Yes.
and you shouldn't be dismissive of how
Other
other people feel. So vice versa.
But here's the catch. I say your feelings are neither right nor wrong. They just are. At the same time, your actions are right or wrong.
That's right.
Now, you can be in a bad mood all you want. Go in your room, process your feelings, go home, go wherever you want to process your feelings. But it doesn't give you a right to lash out at other people.
Exactly.
I always have a feeling, if you ain't the cause of how I'm feeling, then you don't deserve to be the brunt of how I'm feeling. So be mindful of that you don't lash out, or your actions don't get you make the situation worse.
Exactly. And I think, as if you are a leader in an organization, even if you worked in an environment, in a team environment, other people should not have to experience your bad day. I mean,
Yes.
basically what you just said. And as a leader, your team should never have to take the brunt of your disappointments. You're on the front line, so you should be taking those those body blows, those emotional setbacks, and dealing with them in a healthy way. And I think that we'll get to what some of those healthy ways are
Yes.
in dealing with disappointments and suffering. But it's not up, and it's not predicated upon someone else to have to deal with your disappointment, and you should not impose your disappointment on others at any given time.
And again, I just want on my side, the comments kind of fly by, so I try to
All right, just tell me which one you wanted to address, and I'll go back
I'm
to
just
it.
start with the one that's in front of me right now.
Okay.
Dr. Simpson's again, timeline. That's always something that we expect other people Well, you should have been over this by now. How much longer you gonna drag this out? Now, again, it's two sides to that. It is not for me to put it on somebody else, but it is on you to put it on yourself as to how long, should you stay in this space. Like I said, have the pity party, stay in it, but you do want to start your healing process because, again, this is the power of now, and every now is a chance for a new beginning. We talk about things like forgiveness. Do you need to forgive someone, even yourself?
Mm-hmm.
So these are all the things, but again, be mindful that you're not putting a timeline on someone else's healing. Mhm.
Exactly. And even your own, as long as you're processing it.
Yes. Mhm.
You have to process it. Don't sit in it, process it to
Process
deal
it,
with
yeah.
it so that you can heal.
And you only process
And-
it by acknowledging it.
You have to acknowledge it. Absolutely. You want to
Yeah.
deal, not dwell. That's right.
Because we talked in the previous session about ego. Our ego can get in the way because sometimes, we want to make ourselves believe that, we ain't hurt, we're not hurt by it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, yeah, I'm hurt. And especially, for men who heard since before, we are not taught how to deal with our emotions other than anger. I've been saying for years that anger is the only masculine emotion from a societal perspective, but yet we're human. So when we're dealing with those other emotions, we don't know how to handle them. And to Coach Mitchell's point, sometimes you may have seen, fathers try to do that on a young child, young boy, in terms of, how they handle their emotions. So you want to acknowledge them first so that you can begin processing them.
Right. Because when you don't acknowledge it, what the disappointment does, it holds you back.
Yes.
It holds you back. And you're demotivated from even seeking to achieve any type of goal or your aspirations because it turns into festering. It turns into bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
It turns into unforgiveness. It turns into hate. It turns into the underbelly of all things digressive versus progression. And if you're not dealing with your disappointments, you're not able to pursue new opportunities because what you're doing is you're looking at the perceivably successes of other people and you're holding that against them, and it's preventing you from moving forward. So you need to be able to let it go by taking action to help you move past it.
Again, another good comment. Process it. Do not sit in it. So we're going to share a few things that we hope are helpful in terms of allowing you to process. And one of them is, again, recognizing that it exists. That awareness, which you've heard us mention in so many different sessions, that's so important because I think just the being aware, and again, everyone's talking about being woke, but how many people who say they're woke are really woke? Because woke means an awareness of what is really occurring. So you want to at least have the awareness of yourself. Why am I feeling this way? Let me begin asking the questions, but I'm going to recognize I'm feeling some kind of way.
Right. Acknowledge your feelings. Absolutely.
And with that, we want to do this concept called becoming intimate with your feeling. So in this case, become intimate with disappointment. Again, we usually hear the term intimacy, we're thinking more on a romantic or sexual, perspective. But you want to create that intimacy with your emotions, which means you're going to come close to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as you keep that distance, you'll never be able to process it, completely. So, grab hold of it, bring it close, feel it, because you know there's a saying, what you resist persists. So by resisting it, it's only going to lay there. Well, you know, allow yourself time to grieve. It's a disappointment, it's something that did not work out. And again, whether it's an opportunity, whether it's a relationship, whatever it might be, allow yourself to, to grieve. And here's something that, and I'm doing a little plug here, all right? Something you say, let it out. There's two things, right? One, you let it out by talking. Now, I don't know, has anyone ever gone through a period where you've been disappointed and you talked so much you got tired of hearing yourself complain about it? Like, oh, like you have to tell yourself, no, I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I'm done. The other thing you can do is write about it. This is where journaling comes into play. And we're gonna take a commercial break right here.
Hold on. Rule the heart. Rule the heart. Go ahead and get it out. Go ahead and get it out. I got the perfect tool for you. The perfect tool for you. Journaling is so important. It is absolutely I would say the quintessential tool to discovering your emotions, your thoughts. Is self-discovery. Where you stand, where you really want to be, or where you don't want to be. Because when you journal, it really peels back the layers of your heart, right? It peels back the layers of your heart. And I'm not plugging Rule the Heart, but I am plugging the heart, because when you're journaling, it allows you to see who you have been hiding from and what the who you've been hiding from needs to come out of hiding to be your best self, period. So it will show you the scars. It will show you the pain points. It will show you the gaps in the loving of who you are yourself in order for you to get to the next level. Self-care, loving yourself, being positive towards yourself, being loving and kind towards yourself versus sitting in your disappointment and suffering.
Yes.
So
that's why I did that plug, because journaling is really important. And even for my brothers out there, you know what? Journaling is not just for women. Because again, we are made up of emotions. So if you got something, on your heart, something in your head, write about it, because you want to let it out. The worst thing we can do is allow it to fester inside of us.
That's right.
As Coach Mitchell pointed out, those emotions which are stack. Something that went from a little disappointment, a little annoyance, we don't deal with it, it goes all the way to anger.
Wow. I love that comment, Sanji, that she had over a dozen journals from 3 years, over a 3-year period, and she left her disappointments out. Yeah. How often do we overlook the fact that we have had disappointments, but swept them under the carpet and did not deal with them, and only to have them come back and haunt us, right? So when we really sit down ourselves and reflect, I think one key takeaway is to make sure that we are fully transparent and 100% honest with ourselves. Because a lot of times we don't want to deal with the hurt and the pain and the disappointment because it causes us to put a pin in that place of pain, hurt, and disappointment, which causes other layers of that issue to be peeled back that we have to deal with, that we should deal with because it helps us to get over it.
So when you think about how the brain processes disappointment, like I said, it processes as an event. If we don't deal with it, all right, again, when we experience an event in our life that we may not even classify as disappointing, could be negative, but we might not use the word disappointment.
Right.
It all gets categorized the same way. So basically, it probably gets lumped under traumatic.
Yeah.
So we also, you know what, we don't want to acknowledge our disappointments because it may be painful, but there's a part too that we're conditioned. I think two things. One, I think Donnell mentioned in the earlier comment, it's how we're raised that we don't want to disappoint people. You know, whether it be our parents, teachers, again, it's like failure. And we also want to live this perfect life that even when we had a conversation with ourselves, we were mindful that no, you are not perfect. I don't care what anyone says. You're just not perfect. You work toward perfection, which is the journey, a work in progress. You know? And if you want to say you're perfect, you've been given all that you need, but you're a work in progress. So you want to be able to allow yourself to, yes, it does. You want to allow yourself, or as Coach Mitchell said, you also want to be compassionate because that's the next thing, is being compassionate with yourself. We tend, because if you have high expectations, for yourself, that either you have developed or they've always been placed on you, that you don't give yourself any room to make mistakes. And if you do mistakes as being disappointment, you're going to get caught in the situation. So you want to be compassionate with yourself. You don't want to judge yourself for how you feel or for the outcome that caused the disappointment. Go ahead, Coach.
No, I was going to say absolutely, because I was reading the comments and, I've heard, and I've also said the same thing about my journaling. Upon my passing, burn them because it's going to hurt a whole lot of people. Not only is it going to hurt a whole lot of people, but, my feelings are my feelings. My emotions, my hurts, pains, disappointments are mine to deal with. And other people, have their own crosses to bear, right? But I think that with journaling, you are leaving a part of, you're exposing, not leaving, but you're exposing the realness, as Terrell said. You're exposing the realness, not just for what others did, but how you actually felt with the disappointment, whether, it was by way of another person or, you let yourself down. You're exposing the realness of that emotion, the realness of the rawness of the emotional hurt that you felt. So it gives you an opportunity to really heal from it. Because if it's not real, I would say that it is akin to hearing a message over and over and over and over and over again, that you've heard it so many times play back that you don't even pay any attention to it. And then when it actually is supposed to mean something, it doesn't. So I think getting it down on paper, going back to reflect upon it, makes it real. And the only way you can heal from something is if you identify with it.
The awareness, recognizing it. Like I say, it's the first step in most 12-step programs. Admitting that it's there. So, like, when you turn to being compassionate, you want to look and ask yourself, was I a major contributor to the outcome? Maybe you were, maybe you weren't. If you were the cause of the outcome that you're now disappointed by, learn from it.
Yep.
Begin working on repairing it. Because whenever we take action, that always makes us feel better. So you want to try to repair any damage, especially if the disappointment you're experiencing is a result of what you may have done to someone else. If you are not the cause, recognize sometimes things just aren't meant to be. And I know we don't like to hear that, but if you're going to avoid judging yourself, which is going to make it even more painful, and possibly keep you in this pool where you're stuck. You really just want to begin working on yourself, even if it's little steps. Nobody else has to know. Again, it's your timeline. But I think the sooner you begin taking action, the better you feel. In that space, you also want to acknowledge what you did right. I know, there were times where I thought, now again, everything's subjective, I thought I did everything right, and the outcome did not turn out the way I did it, and you become frustrated. But you got to go back and think, you know what? It's the process. That's what a goal actually is. It's the process. What did I learn? So you want to be able to look at things, you want to be compassionate, and you want to give yourself credit where possible.
Exactly. So I think taking action again means that you are not allowing that disappointment to hold you back.
Right.
And that you are trying again.
Yes.
It's like the fear of failure. Don't allow failure to allow you to become complacent, to hold you in the fear of failure, right? To hold you in a position of complacency. Take it as a lesson, learn from it, take from, the disappointments, the nuggets that, okay, I didn't do this right, or I didn't do it that way. Maybe next time I'll try another avenue or path. And that's what you should take from your disappointments.
Now,
So
while we're encouraging you to start taking action, remember, it's constructive action. All right. In your moment of disappointment, you don't want to, as they say, make a permanent decision for a temporary situation, because of how you're processing that disappointment.
but taking action can help you move past the disappointment.
Right. That's what it's constructive action.
Yes.
Because again, the people that we see who are, taking action, say in a violent way, it's destructive. So
right.
Again, you want to be mindful that you're trying to move things forward. Because one question Coach and I always ask when we read or see something, we ask that question: what did this person gain? So you want to think about that. What would you gain by your action? You want to also, actually reframe the situation. Sometimes our disappointment is basically just how we're viewing it. Can you look at it from a different angle? Now, from a different perspective. Maybe things are not as bad as you think they are. Because especially when we're in that moment, we're thinking everything is, coming in, this one disappointment. How many times have, we've seen either on TV or some show, unfortunately, sometimes in real life, that a teenager gets their, heartbroken, they swear it's the end of the world. I can't believe this, no, it's not.
Right. But I think that also brings us to another point in seeking support. Talk to a friend, someone that will hold your confidence and not spread your business,
Right.
because that, that a lot of times leads us not leads us into not sharing
Mhm.
what we're feeling because we don't feel like people will be a confidence keeper,
Right.
right? And protect us from more hurt and pain. So we feel like we are exposing ourselves by revealing our emotions or sharing our emotions with someone else. So again, and that's a bi-directional relationship, right? Always be true to character and not exploit people when they tell you something that is really raw and emotional from their perspective.
Right. We want to also, put the situation in real terms. I remember a friend saying this. I don't know where she got it from, but this is years ago. She said she would always ask herself the question, will this matter to me a month from now? Will it matter to me a year from now? Will it matter to me 5 years from now? And if the answer is no, she said, why should it matter to me now? So we want to put things in real terms. Also, again, we want to have the awareness that we're not just choosing to feel this way. Now, I know that may sound strange, but we all heard the statement about, oh, that person just wants to be mad. Are we that person that for whatever reason we want to be in this space? No, because anger, disappointment, depression, again, not talking about not clinical. I mean, these kind of emotions, they do have an energy in them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, which for some people makes them feel alive. I would just again really suggest that you're not one of those people because you're not really alive. Because it's going to hold you back from actually coming into the person that you are, that you desire to be.
Absolutely. You have to put it into perspective.
Mhm.
I mean, going back to your comment, will it matter a day from now? Will it
Right.
matter a month,
Mhm.
a year, 5 years from now? It's all a matter of perspective.
Perspective. Mhm.
You have to bring your situation into perspective. And if you're wasting energy on something that will really not matter tomorrow, then you have a very warped sense of perspective
Yes.
and you have very low emotional intelligence, to be quite frank.
Mhm.
So, I think that, keeping also a positive outlook.
Yes.
You may know people who just they always have an encouraging word. They always have something affirming to say. They build you up,
Mhm.
always happy, always have a pleasant disposition. I think that is part and parcel of someone having a high level of emotional intelligence. And I don't mean the smartest person in the room. What I mean is someone who is self aware enough that the little things in life don't allow them to sit in a place of suffering or despondency.
Again, what if they, the distinction? The person who has a positive outlook, one, it doesn't mean that bad stuff doesn't happen to them.
Hi, Annie. Thanks for joining.
Because that's sometimes a misnomer.
Mm-hmm.
If I, positive, life is going to just work out wonderful for me. No, that's not true.
Right.
Having a positive outlook is you building up your inner self to be able to handle the disappointing things. And again, it's not that you go into a place of denial, that you deny the negative in order to put the face on a positivity.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's just you built an inner character, your inner core allows you to immediately recognize this is not important to me.
Right.
And it truly isn't that important. As they say, this too shall pass.
That's right.
So you want to, kind of build up that resilience within yourself, but you also want to be honest with yourself. You may not be able to go from 0 to 100 in your resiliency, but you do want to work on it because life is going to continue on, and there will be disappointment.
Absolutely.
As Coach Mitchell said, having a positive outlook is also looking for the positive in your disappointment. Is this an opportunity maybe to start anew? We can quote a lot of things, you can quote scripture, philosophy, all these things until we're hit with it. Then all that just disappears. So it actually goes, with the question that I want to put out there. How many of people, how many of you just, by the way, do you internalize or apply the things that we share? I'm just curious, because no matter who you listen to or what you're reading, you have to be able to internalize it so it becomes part of who you are. This allows you to then grow and then handle things in a certain way.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you got to do something different too if you're in it feeling disappointed, or experience disappointment.
Right. And I think keeping that positive outlook means exactly what you said. I mean, keeping a positive outlook is taking the lessons that you've been taught on how to deal with situations in life, regardless of what medium it comes from, but taking the positive points to help position you for a brighter future is key, because you can be passively listening, passively attending, passively taking notes and never going back to read them, or never really thinking about what you've heard after the conversation is over. Because when you're passive, you're not effectively dealing with life. You're not effectively dealing with yourself, the issues that may come up, because immediately you're going to go into an emotional state of reaction versus, let me think about that.
Yes.
How is this really impacting me? How should I really respond? So, it's not she, few, few. It's not being a holy roller. It is really being deliberate and very intentional about your reactions, your responses, your beliefs, your emotions, your thoughts, and your story.
We talked about that in a previous session, where we made a distinction between you don't want to react, you want to respond. And your responses can become almost like it's an immediate reaction when you've been built up from the inside. Because it's just a normal thing, it's just how I respond. So you want to keep that in mind. And just a couple other things too. When you're feeling, disappointed, try to find ways to laugh. Again, as was pointed out in the previous session, we cannot hold on to two polar emotions simultaneously.
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
So
thanks for joining, Dr. Nicole.
Yeah, that was such a positive, statement. That, so think about it. I can't be mad and laugh.
That's right. I can't love and hate.
Right. So choose the better emotion.
Choose ye this day whom you will serve.
And then, take it day by day. When you're in that funk, you may not be able to go from A to Z. So try to go from A to B, which means I'm just trying to get through the day. I'll let tomorrow, I'll deal with tomorrow as it comes, but what can I do today? So I'm going to laugh. I'm going to go out with somebody. I'm going to move through time.
Absolutely.
Because I know I will eventually heal.
Maintain a positive outlook.
Yes. And also be in the now. When people used to ask me, how I dealt with setbacks, I said sometimes I would have to do one of these, and I was Sean. I said, I just like this. I said, are you still here? Pinch yourself. Did you lose anything? Hmm? You're still here. If you're still here in your entirety, then it's going to get better because we have this. First of all, we're more attracted to the negative possibilities in regard to the positive. And what that does is, again, it fills our head with a whole bunch of stories, whole bunch of possible outcomes, and it really rips us apart. So sometimes you just have to ask yourself, in this now, is everything okay? Hmm? Like right now, am I okay? Are my loved ones okay?
Mm-hmm.
Here we may lack something, but we're okay. And you go to a metaphysical and spiritual space, you want to put out the good vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. You want to say something, everything is going to work out.
Exactly. And that comment that's on the banner is from Annie, which she's absolutely right. The behavior of healing from disappointment is a process. It's not something that we can flip a switch on. It is by sitting and listening to discussions like this, listening to or reading the comments that others are that are listening with us and engaging with us or sharing. It's about applying those to your daily lives, because no one person has the answer. Because if that were the case, then there wouldn't be so many books written about it. There wouldn't be so many lectures. There wouldn't be so many social media posts about it. It would be coming from one person, one thing, one place, one single source. And that's not the case. We all need each other to deal with this life.
Mm-hmm.
And we all need each other's support and help. And if we can't be each other's keepers, then we are doomed. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. So, Coach?
Yes. I am a believer of, the sense of oneness, that everything is connected, that we're all part of the larger, we're all connected. Everything is connected.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we really, as a community, as a society, local, global, when that begins to sink in, there's where we can actualize what is known as being your brother's keeper.
Mm-hmm.
That it's all connected. It's either going to impact us directly or indirectly. So we want to think about our own healing, and we want to think about other people who may be going through healing. That's why you may see posts about why it's important to express a bit of kindness
Mm-hmm.
to someone, because you don't know what they're going through, what healing process they may be going through, or what may have occurred on their morning.
Right, exactly. So focus on things that you're grateful for.
Yes.
I mean, that's something that we can easily put into effect. We can activate that. Focus on things that we are grateful for and look for the good in every situation. Every situation.
If you can't do it real time, at least play it back. All right?
Exactly.
You look for the good in every situation and in every person.
And in every person.
And it's not going to be easy. It may take a long time. Hey, I've been at this for a while, and I still have my moments. So,
absolutely. Thank you, sis, Annie. This is a great platform to help self and others to heal.
Yes.
And that's what we're here for.
Yes.
That's what we are here for. Because, to walk this earth selfishly is to die in self for the most part. But to walk this earth and serve others is not to die in just in self, but it is to live. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm helping other people, I come alive.
Mhm.
It my every fiber in my being comes alive. So I think that in dealing with disappointments, again, if we focus on the things that we're grateful for and we look for the good in every situation and in every person, that will help us keep a positive outlook and keep us out of the valley of suffering
Mhm.
around our thoughts around those disappointments that we may have felt.
And one more thing, on this journey, and this is depends on how you frame it or where you are. But if you believe or can believe that everything works out for your greater good, that helps in terms of dealing with disappointments. That it all is part of your path, your journey. Uh, I think for people who who are working towards something,
Mm-hmm.
they may be able to see it more so than someone who is just kind of meandering through life.
Right.
Because it's part of the self development and self discovery is learning. Okay, this happened to me. Why did it happen to me? Can I figure it out? What did I learn? And can I connect it to what my better version of myself?
That's
Can
right.
I figure out what am I supposed to learn? How am I supposed to grow from this?
Yep. I think by making a conscious decision of one, accepting your disappointments, reframing your thoughts around your situation, taking action, looking to others to help support you through your situation and your disappointment. Again, practicing self-care.
Yes.
That's another big, big effort that's being pushed. Self-care. We have to take care of ourselves first, because if we don't take care of ourselves, how are we going to have the ability to take care of anyone else and even ourselves, right? So we have to be mindful, to be intentional about self-care, maintaining that positive outlook. That's the only way we will be able to deal effectively with the disappointments that this life is certain to bring upon us, and be able to move forward in a healthy and productive way.
And I just want to do one plug here. All right. Uh, some of you receive the emails from I Am Well Health and Wellness platform. Uh, where we bring people in to talk about different aspects, and we have a 10-pillar view of health and wellness. And part of that is naturally, again, how to eat, meditation, things of that nature. Now, proper nutrition, spending time in nature. But we have a couple of things that are coming up, and we do a Go and Grow, which is about getting people into gardening as a way of getting in. So we have a bunch of platforms, that I hope that you will come and join, especially if you have knowledge in a particular area, because that helps you, again, as Coach Mitchell said, building the community, so you can come and learn, and come and share your knowledge and experience. What's coming up besides our next week is the Go and Grow. Tomorrow's our book media club, where we're going to talk about guided meditation and dealing with mind attacks. And what's coming at the end of this month is it's called Bind and Verse, and this is for the writers and authors in the audience. This will give you an opportunity to come share your writing journey, and if you have something that's already written, to also promote your artwork, which may be a book, an article, or something like that. Again, we are a community, so I hope you come out and participate in all the other events in addition to being here tonight.
Listen, Coach, are you good with your announcements?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay, listen, keep eye on the page, The Power of Now, where we will be posting all of the activities and events that will be going on under the I Am Well, I Am Possible umbrella. And it has been an absolute pleasure to spend some time with you guys tonight. Thank you all so much for your engagement, for your comments. They have been very encouraging. And we look forward to spending another hour in The Power of Now with you next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. And remember, if you don't start now, there will be no next.
Yes. Thank you.
Have a great night.